There's a lot of research that shows that as people repeatedly practice mindfulness, I'll just use that as an example, they physically change their brain. So, for example, people who do a 3-day mindfulness training, for maybe half an hour a day in some corporate environment, say, at the end of just 3 days, measurably, their prefrontal cortex is exercising more regulatory control over a part of the brain that's called the default mode network, which gets active when people have a mind that's wandering, and especially in negative, self-preoccupied rumination. So people become more able to pull out of loops of resentment or regret or self-criticism neurologically. In other words, they're discovering in the scanner, in an MRI, that the prefrontal cortex is inhibiting or regulating more a part of the brain in the default mode network just after 3 days. After like 8 weeks of mindfulness-based stress reduction training, an hour or so a day with a day of practice in midway or something like it, there too are lasting changes in terms of more white matter in the hippocampus. It gets a little bigger and it gets more, therefore, more, it's like growing muscle tissue. If you grow tissue in an area, you become more able to do stuff that those kind of muscles can help you with. Just mindfulness practice, kind of fuzzy, imperfect mindfulness practice still can have measurable physical changes in the brain. And then people who have a long-term practice, I suspect you have in your way a fairly long-term practice of mindfulness, as do I. People like us, let's say, or others, and I suspect this applies to other forms of contemplative training, not just mindfulness training, that might be more prayerful in other traditions, let's say, less secular. Still, people who have long-term mindfulness practice have more tissue in prefrontal regions that regulate attention and emotion and action because they're working that muscle continually. So they literally build structure. They also build structure in a part of the brain called the insula, which is on the inside of the temporal lobes, one on either side, which is very involved with interoception and self-awareness, as well as empathy for other people. People with a mindfulness practice have more tissue, cortical tissue, in their insula. They grow tissue there. Like, wow, more connections, more capillaries bringing blood in, more kinds of neuroplastic change there.